Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you how I use my Cricut machine to make these clear dashboards. I'm not the original creator of these. I'm not sure where they originated from, but I saw them on Etsy a couple months ago, some similar items and some envelopes, and I decided to play around with Cricut. I made a few with my name on them, different words, and I also made one for Go Wild where I use a clip art I purchased from Etsy. So one thing I love about these, you can make them different sizes, and this is an A5 size planner, so I made this one just a little bit smaller so I can layer it. And because it's clear, you can add like a cute dashboard underneath it, just like I did here. And then for my treat yourself section, I have another dashboard under this one as well. You'll need your Cricut machine, paper, laminated pouch, hole puncher, and a paper cutter. Alright, so you want to open the Cricut design space on your computer and you start a new project. On the left hand side you'll see different items. You're going to click on the one that says shape, and I start with the square. I'm sure there's other ways to like build a square and cut out the center, but I'm not that advanced as yet. I'm merely learning. So since I'm making this for an A5 size planner, I will give you dimensions that I use for my A5 size planner. If you're making smaller dashboard, you can either practice cutting out a piece of paper and measuring it to see the size that you need, but play around with the sizing to kind of get the perfect dimension that you want for your planner. Once you have your square, the first thing I do is I unlock the size at the top and set the dimensions for what I need. So as far as width, I can set it to 0.5, and the length I set it to about 8.1, 8.2. A5 size is 8.27, so you don't want it to be longer than the size of your inserts. So you have to make sure that they are on the same length, on the same level. So there's on the top where it says position, if you click on one, you can see where it lands on this grid, and you want to change the position on the y-axis so they can be equal in height, because you're going to have to connect them with another square. So that's something you definitely want to make sure they're level, or you'll have like a lopsided square for your start. Columns that I already created, I duplicated it to have a third one, and then I rotated 90 degrees. Once I rotated, I went to the top again and I hit the unlock button and I changed it to the width that I want for my width of the actual square, not the width of the insert, because you have to remember you need to be able to keep a little bit of space so you can have a section to punch. So the width of the middle piece, I made that 4.5, because remember my overall dimension needs to be around less than 5.83. And you have to keep in mind we already have a 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch for the columns on the left and right, so you don't want it to overlap. And you definitely want to make sure the position is good so they are equal on the same height. Once I spaced out the columns, the left and the right, if you hold shift and click on each of those items, you can see the total width on the top to give you an idea of how wide it is, so you know if you're on the right track. Now you want to make sure everything is aligned. You're going to press shift, click on the bottom and the left column, go to the top where it says align, and you're going to align bottom. Then you'll click on the bottom again and the right column, and you're going to align bottom again. You're going to repeat this step for the top by aligning top. So because you can sometimes change the size after you have everything aligned, you just want to click on the top and the two left columns just to make sure your width is still within the measurements that you need. And also, if you click on the left or the right columns, you can see how tall it is. So the last thing to finalize your frame, you're going to weld all 4 parts together. So you're going to hold shift and select the left, the right, the top, and the bottom. And then the bottom right, you're going to click on weld. This is to make it into a solid square so that you can cut it on your machine. Mine had a minor imperfection on the bottom, but it's not that big of a deal. If it's bothering you, you can always use a paper trimmer to trim it once you've cut it. Now it's time to add your text. You click on the left where it says text, and in the bottom when the box pops up, you're going to type in whatever you want to have in the middle. Or if you were using a clip art like I did with the Disney, you would just put it directly in the middle. So on the top, you can go to font, and I like to use the fonts that are in the system, not Cricut, because the ones that are in Cricut, you have to pay for them. So the system fonts are available for free, and I pick a font that's big, that's going to show up bold, or you can click a fancy font, whatever you feel like doing for the look that you're going for. So the most important thing is making sure that your font sits directly on the square, because you're going to have to weld it together like you did with the square outline. If it's not directly on it, your Cricut machine is going to cut it as if it's a separate thing. So I added "I am strong" for my words, and you can definitely play around with it and figure out a particular style or a look that you're going for. So now you're going to center it, or if you want to put it on the side, that's up to you. You'll use the rotate at the top if that was your choice. So you have to make sure you select your words or picture, whatever you have in the middle, and the outline of the square, and you weld it together. So this way you have one cut file for your Cricut machine. Then you go to the top and you select Make It, and then you follow the prompts on your machine. Select your paper setting. This is cardstock, so I put mine on cardstock, and then I follow the prompts. Once it's all cut out, I kind of just check it with another dashboard that I already have, just to kind of make sure that the sizing was okay, so I don't have to make any changes to it. Then you're going to laminate your dashboard. I'm using 5 ml pouches. You can use 3 ml if that's all you have. It doesn't really matter. I like the thicker ones, so that's the reason for me using the 5 ml. When the sheet is warm, it tends to bend, so I like to put something heavy on top of it to keep it flat. Now you have to cut the edges off the laminated sheet. You want to keep in mind that you have to keep extra space so you can punch the holes on the clear laminate inside. I like to take one of my dashboards or my insert to measure to make sure that I'm leaving adequate space so I can punch the holes. Once you've cut out the entire dashboard, you're going to punch your holes. I put a piece of paper on my hole punch to kind of mark where my insert needs to be on the bottom in order for it to line up perfectly. So that's the reason for the small paper on my hole puncher. So every time I punch the holes on anything that I laminate, I like to run it through the laminator once again. The holes were just slightly on the pink paper. It's not a big deal. I've had that happen to me plenty of times. But just so you have the idea of how you do it, you can play around with your measurements to get the exact size that you want. And don't be afraid to experiment with smaller sizes like I did with the front of my planner.